Yo, what up, guys? Welcome to Feedback Friday. Sorry, it's been a while. Been on the road, been catching up from being on the road, but now we're back in the flow of things. Today, we're going to be taking a look at a video shot by David Murray. It's a wedding video shot on the Canon 80D, a Sigma 24-70, and a monopod. He asked me, how do you handle exposure with harsh lighting conditions, with the highlights and shadows? And then he also asked me, I charged $700 for this highlight wedding film. Would you say that this is a good price, or could I charge more? So let's check it out. Here we go.
There is two types of love that you face. The love that we
First off, David, I'm gonna say we could probably just go with one of these two shots. Giving us a close-up of this, I don't think adds a whole lot to our viewing experience. We got a good idea of what we were seeing in this first shot, so I'd say just pick one of those two shots.
love that you will face about life. The love that we like for us to look at today is a love that, regardless of what men may do or say, what happens.
That's a little distracting to me. Going to a black screen here to put the title on. I would be creative with that and see what shot you could fit that title into. Instead of cutting to a black screen, find a good shot that works well with the title, that you can see the title well, and just put the title on top of the video.
Happens in life, you will still love one another. Now there's a conditional love. That love is, I'll love you as long as you do what I can. But the true love that we read to you today is something that lives on heart.
I like the voiceover in the background, add some good engagement. So here's one shot already where we're seeing some of the highlight and shadow issues. This is direct sunlight. White dresses are just tough in direct sunlight because they're so bright. I would recommend underexposing rather than overexposing if you have the two options. In other words, stop down more than you think you'll need to preserve those highlights, because it's a lot easier with DSLR footage to lift the shadows up in post versus trying to bring the highlights down. You can't recover highlights as well as you can preserve details and shadows. So when in doubt, underexpose a little bit, and that'll help you kind of maintain more of those highlights, especially in dresses like this. Again, we have two shots of the sign here. I think just one gives us the idea of what we're looking at.
The world awaits. Well, let the stars tonight light the way.
Again, with highlights here, we have a white shirt, white tie, light skin, and they're all overblown. They're all overexposed and blown out. So same thing here, you're just overexposed. It's not necessarily that it's really hard lighting conditions, it's just that you're overexposed. So the biggest thing throughout a lot of these shots is just stop down a little bit more than you think you're going to need to preserve those highlights. It might crush some of these shadows like this, but those are the only shadows that would probably be crushed in this, and you're much less worried about keeping detail underneath his jacket than you are in everything else. So always expose better for whatever your main subject is, and in this case, it's his hands and his tie. Those are more important to be exposed correctly, so just stop down overall.
Light the way. Hand in hand.
These are both nice. Nervous or anything like that. Or just be nervous, but it's know that she's the one that you're going to put in there for me and love forever. And you know, it's just, I want to think I'm feeling excited. I can't wait to start everything out with her.
Under the stars, we'll find our way out.
What has two eyes in the corner of the front? Anybody know? You.
With you by my side, there's no place that we can go.
I like all the added audio to help tell the story.
This is the start of something beautiful. When the wind captures everything I long to say.
Building some good anticipation for what hopefully is a good climax.
Told you back.
There's another shot that's super overexposed. Don't focus so much on exposing for this side of the face unless that's the only side you're seeing. If you have the sun in the background, then yeah, expose for the face. But when you have half of them lit up by the sun, you gotta expose for the sun. So that's why I try and put the sun directly behind my subjects so that there's not a part of them that's being completely lit by the sun, which would then overexpose them. So it's one, positioning where you're at, putting the sun behind your subjects, or positioning them to where you want them so that you can put the sun behind them. But if you can't do that, then you got to expose for the sun so you don't have blown out highlights like that.
Look back now. Don't you wait. Just say you'll run with me. Come what may. Under the starlight, we'll find our way. I know this is the start of something beautiful.
For as much then as you cleanse Charlie have consented together in holy wedlock, I pronounce you husband and wife. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. What God has joined together, let no man asunder.
Again, good use of audio with B-roll. That's kind of an awkward cut right there to this cross. Even the cut here,
Period. What God has joined together,
I don't really even know what they're doing.
let no man asunder.
I think it's fine to have B-roll, but it's got to be in context. I think a better shot there would have been them loving on each other, hugging, kissing, because they're talking about their, covenant they're about to make with each other in love, eternal love. And then we're cutting to them putting some kind of food on a picture, or probably food behind it. I don't know. So I'm not really sure what's going on there. For context reasons, be careful with the B-roll you use. We can see the cross behind them, so cutting to a B-roll shot of the cross I don't think is necessary. We get the idea where they're at, that it's a Christian wedding, so that doesn't add to the story. It's actually distracting if it doesn't add.
Something beautiful.
So this shot's better exposed. You see how the sun's behind them, so we don't have any part of their face being directly lit as far as where the camera's positioned. This image looks a little cool to me throughout. There's some color balance issues. Some shots indoors are a little too warm. Some of these shots outdoors are a little bit too cool. So just be careful of that as well, making sure that your color balance looks similar throughout. With DSLR footage, because it's not raw, you can't manipulate that a ton in post. You can a little bit, but just be careful that you shoot it as close as possible in camera. Awesome shot right there.
High in the hole from this day forward. I win, take thee, Charlie, be my wedded wife.
I don't know about that cut though. I think we could do without the jump cut there.
In sickness and in health.
To love and cherish till death do us part.
For the first time out in public, Mr. and Mrs. Queen Rose.
Under the starlight, we'll find our way. I know this is the start of something beautiful. You by my side, there's no place that we can go. This is the start of something beautiful.
Okay, great job, David. overall, I thought you killed it. Great wedding. Biggest thing was just exposure being off at times, and some of the white balances being off a little bit. Could you charge more than $700 for a wedding video like that? Yes, I think you could, but I think a couple things would have to happen. One would be work on your exposure. A telltale sign of an amateur video is overexposed video that's not exposed correctly. So really work on that. Go out and practice shooting in some harsh lighting conditions with direct sunlight, and practice different scenarios of making sure that your highlights aren't blown out. Come back and post, pull them in your computer, see how they look, and make sure that you can retain that detail in those highlights. Again, it's better to underexpose and bring up the shadows because it reserves shadows a lot better than it does highlights. The other thing, if you want to start charging more, I could definitely see the quality of the 80D coming through in that footage. It's a fine camera, a good beginner camera, maybe even intermediate camera, but if you want to start charging more, to me a $700 price is an intermediate price. So if you want to charge professional prices, I think you need to up your gear, the quality of your footage. I'd recommend getting something like a Canon 5D Mark IV, or if you want to stay with Canon, or a Sony a7S II, or a Panasonic GH5, something that ups that quality a little bit more, maybe 4K footage that can shoot maybe some slow motion. I noticed you didn't shoot any much slow-mo in there. I might shoot a little bit more than you did. That's just my personal preference. But yeah, so I think in order to charge more, I think you could definitely charge over $1,000 if you had nicer video equipment to justify those higher prices. That's part of what people are paying for, isn't just your skill level and the final product. They're paying for the expensive equipment that you had to buy that allows them to have a high quality video production. So be willing to invest in yourself. I think your skill level is good enough that you warrant a better camera, so I would look into upgrading that. And also, this is again personal preference, nothing wrong with monopod weddings. A lot of people do it. I think to add a little bit more cinematicness and overall production value would be to add some movement. So even if it's only for some shots, establishing shots here and there, but just if you had a Crane 2 or a Glide Cam with a second camera, that you were getting some smooth shots, or interchanging between your monopod and a Glide Cam when you have opportunities to get some moving shots here and there, I think it would just add a little more production value to those, allowing you to sell those for more money as people are seeing a higher production value. So that's my feedback for you, David. Hopefully that helps. If you guys have any further questions for me or for David, please let us know.
What is up, FTF fam? Excited to be here. My name is Jake Weisler. I am kind of taking over for a few weeks while Parker's in Thailand and traveling and just super busy with some big projects. He's asked me to kind of do this, and that includes doing some Feedback Fridays. So here I am. Today's video is brought to us by Damian Gray, the man himself. He brings us a wedding video that he shot, I think, about 3 months ago. And it's a great video. I've already watched it. It's a happy ending. And he shot this with a Canon T5i and a Canon T3i with a 50mm 1.4, an 18 to 135mm 3.5, and a 75 to 300mm f4. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Just from the get-go, Damian, killing it. Music is key, sets the tone, sets the pace of the video. Great choice of music. The opening shots are also very captivating. You're showing the details, the location, drawing us in. Notice how the establishing shot of the venue is as pushing into it, like we're arriving at the wedding. We're walking into it, so it draws our attention in. Great job. Man, I'm a sucker for wedding films. Freaking love these things.
Caleb, we have been talking about this day since I was 15 years old, and it's finally here. I am so excited for the adventures to come. I promise to always put Jesus first above all things, to pray for you and to love you unconditionally, forever and ever, even if there's a fire.
Love that shot. One of my favorites. Great job with the vows. The music transitioning from just itself to behind the vows was a little dramatic, a little steep. Maybe more of an even transition from the music playing to the music dimming down so we can hear the vows. But I love the B-roll you threw over it. And this is a great shot too. I love how it comes right into focus. Nailed it.
Bama is red, the Bears are blue. Today is the day I get to marry you. We've waited forever, and it's finally here. We get to join as one, never again to fear. We've been together since 15. This really feels like a dream. But today, Marbella, is the day we become a team. I love you so much. This much is true. My love, this is the day I get to marry you.
Those were awesome details of the groom. Love it. Tells a story. Bride's talking, show the bride. Groom's talking, show the groom. Great. I think the speed ramp was a little too quick for the pace of the video, and I would have just cut it, honestly, and just showed the groom's face.
Are you?
I think your framing was a little off on this shot. There's a point when you intentionally shoot high to show off what's above them, but usually never just the head. If you were to do that a little bit wider and a little bit more zoomed out, maybe from waist up, and with a lot of headroom to show off the brick wall, that would have looked very aesthetic and artistic and stuff, but I think just the head, we're kind of like, what's going on? For first looks, when the bride gets to be seen in the dress for the first time by the groom or by the parents, it's important to get her walking up, but I love to switch to behind the bride to capture the reaction of the person who's watching. It's usually a very tender moment when they can see this white dress on their daughter or their wife for the very first time. It's a very emotional reaction. So maybe get the shot you need of her walking up, but then pause everyone and say, hey, 1 second, run to the backside and be like, hey, do your thing. They'll turn around, you'll grab the shot, tears will flow, it'll be beautiful.
Christian marriage is not.
Let me just take a moment real quick to say how vital it is to capture moments like that right there. Pure, raw emotion. It's hard to come by that kind of emotion when with the camera so close. So whenever you see those happening, flip out your camera and just shoot it. Capture it. Those are priceless memories that these two ladies will get to look at in this video for the rest of their lives and remember how they felt. Your job as a wedding videographer is to make their day seem 100 times better than it actually was, even if it was an amazing day. You're there to make it look dreamy and beautiful and emotional, and capturing raw emotion like this that's not posed or directed makes it that much better. In fact, I had this one wedding one time. I won't get into it now, but because I captured a few raw moments, it made the video turn out 1,000 times better than the wedding actually was. It was horrible.
Christian marriage is not living.
Audio steeped a little bit too much there as well. Transition it slowly into the dialogue with the music, not so drastically low.
Merely for each other. It is a man and a woman uniting to serve God. If you seek His kingdom first and His righteousness, He will add all other things to you. By the authority committed unto me as a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ, I declare that Caleb and Marley are now husband and wife, according to the ordinance of God, in the name of the Father and the Son and of the Holy Spirit. Caleb, you may kiss your bride.
Man, loving this. I'm going to get into the storytelling in a minute, but love the transitions. And I think, again, the speed ramps are a little bit too quick to be transitions. They're a little bit too disorienting. Like, I love the feel of the dance party, but it's just those were a little bit too jolty, too quick for me. Also something, just, and I don't want to be shallow when I say this. It's unfortunate. We don't know how these people relate to the bride and groom. They do. It's important to show, obviously, the mom and the dad and so forth, and the siblings. But when it comes to guests at a wedding reception, Parker's advice to me was always shoot the most attractive people. And the more attractive the guests are, the better your footage will look. Those are attractive guys. Cute shot of the little girl, but you're also kind of showing off them dancing and the little girl. Just pick one. Do a close with the little girl dancing, looking at the camera, all cute. Because you chose to do both, you had to widen your aperture, which showed this whole thing. You had your monopod, your tripod, your camera. Parker talks about filling the frame in composition in one of the first sections, but also not filling the frame. You have a whole lot of dead space where the camera is, the empty table with 3 empty chairs, the guests of people, the cars in the background, the trees, and then you're trying to show off this little girl, but she fills up maybe 10% of the frame. So just storytelling in general. Pick your subject, focus on it, showcase it, glide around her, and then show quickly the bride and the groom looking down at her laughing. And that way your audience knows you're showing this girl dancing and the bride and the groom watching the girl dance without showing all the crap behind them. Great shot. Audio peaked a little bit. Not much you can do there. Maybe just lower, or don't even use audio. Find some sound effect on YouTube of a crowd cheering and replace it so it's just not as peaky. Is peaky a word? Love the closing shot. Love the title. Love the colors. Just love it. Holy cow. Damien, my man. Loved it. Especially that you shot this with the T5i and the T3i. I think you made it very cinematic, very attractive. Couple big highlights for me. One, your storytelling. You did a great job at going from beginning to end of the day and also showcasing their love as the main subject. There's the bride, there's the groom, and a lot of the times as wedding videographers we just kind of focus on them, usually more the bride, right? But I think what I'm starting to learn is it's more important to showcase, if you can, their love together, which means including emotion, including vows, including them looking at each other in the eyes deeply, passionately, you know, showing that they're in love and they're celebrating it together, as opposed to here's a cool bride, here's a cool groom, magic. You know what I mean? I think your colors were fantastic. I liked the way you colored your video, especially the indoor shots. It looked very dreamy. The slow motion was very great. I think you're off to a great start when it comes to wedding videos, man. Seriously, this is better than my first one. My first few, honestly. Little bits of feedback. Just even out your audio just a little bit when the music dies down, the dialogue comes in. Just make it a little bit more smooth so that it's more of a natural transition to us listening. When it's so sudden and jolty, as a viewer, we kind of get distracted by it and we kind of like subconsciously get to wonder what just happened and distracts from the view, right? And then my other thing is just I think the speed ramps were a little bit too much. You had this really dreamy, beautiful, fun vibe, and those really fast speed ramps kind of like discombobulated me a little bit. But Damien, great job, man. Loved it. Pumped to see more. That's all for today, guys. If you have any further questions for me or for Damien, please let us know. Doing the punch. Welcome to Feedback Friday. We're going to be taking a look at a wedding film by, I'm going to butcher this, Maciek Haluska. Sorry if I'm completely mispronouncing that. But Maciek put together this great wedding film and wanted some feedback. As for gear, he was using the Canon 80D, the Canon 550D, the Sony a6300, a Steadicam, Ronin S, a Sigma 17-50 2.8 lens, a Canon 50mm 1.8, and a Samyang 85mm 1.5. So, here we go. Beautiful visuals. You got some sound design there with birds. Great job. So, with this shot and the opening shot, I think it's it is overexposed. This shot looks really soft. We're at 1080p, but the shot just kind of looks like there's no definitive focus. I don't know if that was your shutter speed, or if that was just the camera quality. I'm not sure what your recording settings were at, but then you have a title come on screen, and so it doesn't really matter what the background is because the title's there. So, but this shot, when the music starts, you get your blend out highlights, and again, nothing really seems to be in focus. It all looks kind of soft. Are we looking at the barn? The trees, what's the main focus here? Just looks a little soft. And with this shot, I feel like we were pulling back way too fast. And with this next dress shot, I think we're moving too fast. And especially with, the stabilizer you're using, it wasn't as smooth as most stabilizers should be. We see a lot of shaking here because you're moving so fast. Again, this video is, the music you chose is very slow and dreamy. Your footage needs to match it. Your footage needs to work together with the visuals to tell the story and not have one distract from the other. Same with this shot. That shot was really fast and the motion blur was a little bit too much, and so we really never got to see the earrings. Again, slow things down, do slow movements. Unless you're knowing you're going to use a fast-paced song, use it. But for this song and these type of shots, you want to go slow and subtle. So this is the bride. First time we're seeing the bride. Cool shot of her putting on her dress. Colors look great. Good exposure. Pretty shot on the earrings. Good details. See, the quick cuts are great because it goes to the beat, but the movements, I think, should be a little bit slower. Great detail shots. Getting a little bit slower. I feel like we cut too soon there with the shoes. The majority of the shot was nothing, right? And the shoes come into frame. And right when the shoes enter the frame, we lose them. So I would have kept that a little bit longer. Creative shot there. So this is the first time we're seeing the man, and I'm not sure which one the groom is. I'm assuming it's the guy getting the cufflinks put on. Love these visuals, though. They're really great. Okay, so that's the groom. So to avoid that, you could, because I didn't know who the groom was at first, maybe crop it in more so he's more in the center of the frame as opposed to them both being dominant subjects. Put one in the center. Great shot. So I talk about this in my edit breakdown video. When you're transitioning scenes, you got to use transitions. They don't have to be fancy, but you do need a transition from one thing to the next. So we're inside. He's buttoning his coat, and then all of a sudden he's standing outside the ceremony. So maybe use that sun flare from the beginning, put it in between the inside and outside shots. Use like a ceremony shot, use a tree shot, something to say that we're going outside. Because it kind of goes from right from the getting ready to all of a sudden they're in the ceremony, and here's the bride. There's no real build up. It just kind of happens. It's like part of the getting ready. Especially with this music. The music is just kind of on a loop. So far there's been no climax. There's been no bridge. The music's just kind of done the exact same thing for the last minute. And so as a viewer, nothing's really built up to this part of the video, which should be one of the climaxes, the bride coming down the aisle for the first time. Usually you can have audio kind of build up to it, vocals from the ceremony, which so far we don't know if there is any. So yeah, either maybe use a better song that has more of a chorus to it, more of a part where we can introduce different scenes with the music, or more transitions to help build up to the moment of this moment. So I didn't know they were singing right here. When it transitions to this, we never really saw them get to each other, right? We never really saw the exchange happen. It's just her walking down the aisle, and then they're side by side, no real emotion. They're not looking at each other. It's not really pretty. They're just kind of singing, but I didn't know that until I saw this shot of this girl singing, and I'm like, okay, they're singing. I just thought they both looked really confused, right? So I will put this shot first, and then the bride and the groom singing. That's a beautiful shot. I love the low mode. That was pretty fast. Or maybe, you know what? Put the guitar at the beginning so we know that, okay, there's music being played, and now we can show people singing and it looks more natural, right? I try to avoid shots of when the bride kind of fixes herself or isn't looking very flattering. If they're wiping away a tear, yeah, but if they're, fixing their nose or wiping away snot or whatever, I just don't think it's very flattering, and I would omit that shot. And I think we have enough shots of people singing now, and I know it's important to get all the guests, but look at these people. They all look so emotionless, right? I wouldn't include that shot. It doesn't really enhance the video. It kind of makes it look a little bit boring, especially when the music has no audio, there's no lyrics, there's no pickup. It's just the same loop. Love this shot. That's beautiful. Just curious why there wasn't any audio recorded. It seems like it was an awesome ceremony. Really pretty scene.
Zakochałam się w Tobie, bo masz
Oh, there we go.
serce, które pragnie Boga. Jesteś miłością
some audio.
mojego życia. Jesteś moim najlepszym przyjacielem i kocham to bardzo w nas.
Let's talk about framing really quick with this shot. My attention goes to the groomsman right here. Yes, he's in the subject, but he looks like he's more in focus than the groom is. And he's filling just as much of the frame as the groom is, right? But he's kind of looking around, he looks kind of bored. I would crop that in so it's just these three. Draw a square, this, and just keep them right there.
Przyjacielem i kocham to bardzo w nas. Jesteś moim cudem. Jesteś dla
Very
mnie
pretty.
najważniejszy i będę się zawsze starać,
Okay, so now transitioning into bridal footage.
żebyś to czuł. Chcę kibicować każdemu twojemu marzeniu. Nie mogło mnie trafić nic lepszego niż ty. Dlatego ja, Kalian.
Notice how the bride's framing is so much better than the groom's framing. She's in the third. She's not in the center. So she's on the third. He's on the left. She's way out in the background. There's a lot of good bokeh. She's obviously the center subject.
Kalian. Biorę sobie ciebie, Macieju, za męża i ślubuję ci, że będę cię kochać. Całą sobą, jak tylko będę
And
potrafił.
this scene's a little bit too long. Introduce more B-roll. Show more reactions, more details.
Ślubuję ci
That was a
uczciwość
long
małżeńską.
scene. And again, now we're watching the groomsman fix himself, right? We're watching him fix his face. And that distracts from what's being said. It distracts from the video, distracts from the groom listening to his
Że
bride.
będę ci ufać i mówić prawdę.
Because we started
Oraz,
watching
że
the
cię nie
groomsman,
opuszczę
and we
aż do
shouldn't be.
śmierci.
Beautiful shot.
Pamiętam nasze wspólne spacery i modlitwy w lesie, podczas których mogliśmy poznać
Parker talks about this in the course a lot, but it's not just what's in your frame, it's what's not in your frame. Framing is about drawing your viewer's attention to the subject. But if there's anything in the frame, person or anything that distracts from what we're watching, it ruins your shot. If he does anything, sneezes, make a weird face, whatever, it ruins your shot. So make sure when you're framing up your subjects and you're framing up your scene, you zoom in more so that these three people fill the frame and no one else.
poznawać nawzajem nasze serca. To właśnie w nim ze wszystkiego w Tobie zakochałem się najbardziej.
It's a little bright. I would
Brakuje
darken
mi
that a
słów,
little bit.
którymi mógłbym opisać, jak cieszę się, że zakochałem się z wzajemnością.
See, something's funny to this guy. He's laughing, but we don't know what it is.
Co ostatecznie przyprowadziło nas do tego miejsca, w którym teraz jesteśmy. I dlatego chciałbym ślubować Ci, że zawsze będę Cię kochał najmocniej jak tylko potrafię, wciąż trzymając swój wzrok na idealnej miłości Chrystusa do Kościoła. I że będę kładł swoje życie w ofiarę za Ciebie, tak jak Chrystus położył je z miłości w ofierze za Kościół. Że będę najlepszym mężem, jakim tylko będę potrafił oraz jeżeli Bóg da,
Got the photographer crouched down here, a little distracting. Again, zoom in, crop it, so that they fill the frame and there's no distractions.
Najlepszym tatą dla naszych dzieci.
Mogę pocałować swoją małżonkę.
I think that shot was a little too fast. Didn't really feel like it had a point in the story. We saw it a little bit earlier, and we see it again now. He's walking towards her. But then it crops, and we see this, right? Also, you want to match up your colors. Look at how contrasty and deep these colors are. Look how vibrant the greens are. And then look how flat this is. Maybe you haven't color graded it yet. I don't know. But match up your footage. Beautiful shot. Little overexposed. Cut back to this shot. Love that. Celebrating. Now we're to the reception. Lots of emotion here. I love it. Love that. Awesome. Very smooth. I love that one. It's beautiful. Great detail shot. Okay, great job. Great work. I think what was lacking for me was a consistent storyline. And I don't feel like you showed enough. I feel like we had so much footage that wasn't used. And maybe I'm wrong, maybe you didn't shoot a lot. But I wish we would have seen more of those portraits of the bride and the groom in the woods, those ring detail. That last shot was beautiful. I think there would have been a better place for it at the beginning. More shots of them in love, more shots of them looking at each other, more shots of them to help tell the story. I feel like the getting ready shots were great. I feel like the story was there. Details were there. It was beautifully done. But then we went to the ceremony and I just felt like the story kind of was all over the place and I didn't really know what was happening. When you're shooting a wedding, you want to make sure you capture the details of the surrounding area because you never know when you're going to need it to fill in the dead space. Shots of the trees, the nature, the details, the arch, the chairs, the flowers. There's so many things I feel like we didn't see in the video that I wish I would have seen. Things that the bride and the groom spent a lot of money on that just, now it's not in their wedding video. And I wish it was. I feel like we were missing a lot of details. And I think the music, it wasn't my favorite. We captured their vows. I'm assuming those were their vows in the ceremony, the audio. And that sounded great. But the music never picked up. It never slowed down. It just stayed in an acoustic loop for the entire thing. And it kind of makes the viewer a little bit bored, to be honest. It makes you a little bit like, okay, what's happening? Is there something going to happen next? There's no build-up. There's no anticipation for the next scene. It just kind of all happened. There's really no transition to the reception. It was just like all of a sudden they're dancing, right? We didn't see a shot of the reception venue. We didn't see a shot of the details of the venue. We didn't see a whole lot of things, while the visuals that we did see were pretty and well composed. I felt like I was missing out on a lot of what happened on that day, and I shouldn't feel that way as a viewer, and hopefully the bride and the groom don't feel that way. I know this is your second wedding video, and I think for your second video you killed it. It's way better than my second wedding video by far, but I think just improving the storytelling and showing off more of the wedding details will greatly help you take this video to the next level. Masiek asked me how much I pay for this video, and to be honest, I'd pay $500 probably for a video like this. It was 4 minutes long. It showed, a little bit of our day. It showed us getting ready, our ceremony, our vows, and then a little bit of our reception. It seemed like a lower budget wedding, unless that's just how it was portrayed, but I would pay about $500 for this. The footage did look a little soft. That's just kind of the cameras you're using. It's not going to be as crisp as you'd like. But great work, Masiek. Keep it up. Keep up the good work. I want to see more from you. I want to see you continue to grow. I want to see you continue to get better. I think you have a lot of potential. I think you understand how to capture people in love, and I want to see you do that more. And I wish I would have seen that more. But thanks, guys. If you have any further questions for me or Masiek, please let us know.